So we can get on with the debate. So today's debate will be between batch 30 versus batch 29. And they will be speaking on the topic, global sustainable development depends or does not depend on the commitment of high-income countries. So the proposition will be batch 30 and the opposition will be batch 29. So these teams and topics were selected based on a fair draw, which was done with the presence of all the captains. So each speaker will be given 4 minutes to present their points, and the captain of both teams will get 5 minutes for their rebuttal speeches. And there will be 30 seconds for the judges to evaluate each speaker, so between they speak. And let me introduce the judges for today. So our first judge will be Dr. Charminda Abesingha, senior lecturer from the Department of International Studies, the Faculty of Social Sciences in the University of Kelaniya. Our second judge will be Dr. Pramodi Premasiri, captain of the Musaeus College debate team in 2012 and 2013. And the third judge will be Ms. Chintani Kumaradasa. She is a software engineer in telecommunication solutions at Axiara Digital Labs, and she is a past debater of Musaeus College. So now I would like to invite the proposition team captain, Ms. Sithiji De Silva, to introduce her team members.
Hi, am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see you.
I'm Sithiji De Silva, the captain of the proposition team, and our second speaker is Shavindi Gunaratna. Third speaker is Ayesha Nabewardana. The fourth speaker is Janandu Kararatna, and we have Chayandi Pirides and Krishan Prabhakar as our fifth and sixth reserve speakers.
Thank you so much. So now I would like to invite the opposition captain, Udaran Selvaratnam, to introduce their team members as well.
Hi, am I audible and visible?
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see you.
Yes, so good evening, everyone. So I'll be the opposition captain for today, Udaran Selvaratnam, and we have our second speaker, Dihant Kaldera. The third speaker will be Zainab Nasir. The fourth speaker will be Romain Vijayawardena, and the reserves would be Evin Gamage and Ushadi Chaisena.
Thank you so much. So we can go forward with the debate because we have a very exciting topic today. And so now I would like to invite the captain of the proposition to build the base of your argument for today. You can start your speech once the screen turns green.
Global sustainable development depends on the commitment of high-income countries. Global sustainable development, by definition, is the need of the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the generations that are coming in the future to meet their own needs. Sustainable development is the meeting of human needs and goals while simultaneously sustaining the ability of natural systems to provide natural ecosystem values and ecosystem services on which the economy and the society are based on. So the most important word in this topic is depends. Depending on something, according to Oxford Dictionary, is to be able to trust or to rely on. Depends means to count on, to lean on, and to rely upon. Commitment. Commitment is a state or quality of being dedicated to a course of activity. What are high-income countries? High-income countries, by definition of the World Bank, nations with gross national income per capita of $12,056 or more in 2021. The base argument of the proposition. So there's an architectural structure that is built upon a strong, reliable middle pillar. So if the strong, reliable middle pillar is taken out of the structure is bound to collapse. And this is the meaning of dependency. This is what happens when a structure is dependent on something. It's the same for this huge structure of global sustainable development. It depends on the strong middle pillar of high-income countries. And why else the proposition is going to prove that this strong pillar is high-income countries? Well, we have 5 main points. The first one being the global rankings. According to the Sustainable Development Report of the United Nations, out of the 50 countries who have achieved the highest performance in the SDG, 95% of them are high-income countries. There is no argument about the factual arguments. At the moment, this huge structure of sustainable development rests on the shoulders of high-income countries. The second argument is funding. High-income countries do almost all of the funding that is necessary for the global sustainable development. For example, EFSD, the European Fund for Sustainable Development, has allocated 37.1 billion euros so far in the last 3 years for these sustainable developmental goals. And EFSD is comprised of mainly it's almost all members are high income countries. So this proves the fact that the biggest pillar on which the sustainable development depends on is high-income countries. The research done for sustainable development being the third factor, the research done, almost all of the research done on sustainable development are done by the high-income countries. Therefore, this strong structure of global sustainable development depends upon the shoulders of high-income countries. And environmental protection treaties are given by these high-income countries. For the nation to achieve developmental goals, they have to climb a certain threshold of wealth. They have to climb a certain ladder. That's why the middle-income and low-income countries cannot climb this wealth ladder in order for them to be sustainable. Why? Because they have main factors: the economic instability, the short-term developmental policies, psychosocial stability, the political instability, that are the factors that are intrinsic to these low and middle income countries that prevent them from achieving this high sustainable global development goal. So this structure of global sustainability cannot depend on these middle and low income countries without this strong pillar of high income countries. This is our base argument, and this is the same reason why Sri Lanka, being a country which receives so much of solar energy, we still cannot put our investment on solar energy requirements, because we don't have that income, and that is why we strongly believe as a proposition that the global sustainable development depends on the commitment of high income countries.
Thank you so much. So now that we have heard the base of the proposition and we have clear understanding of everything that is going through, so now we can move on to the speeches of the opposition. So let's just give a few moments for the judges to evaluate the first speaker. Meanwhile, can I check if we can hear and see the opposition captain?
Yes, can you see and hear me clearly?
Yeah, we can see you and we can hear you. And can you see the timer card?
Yes, I can see.
Okay. So you can start when the screen turns green.
The slower step of a reaction determines the rate at which the overall reaction proceeds. Reaction mechanism and rate law. Good evening, honorable adjudicators, ladies and gentlemen. The topic of our debate today is global sustainable development does not depend on the commitment of high-income countries. We do agree with some of the arguments, some of the definitions brought by the proposition. But let me tell you the real definitions of some which were customized to fit the proposition's argument. The most important word of the debate, commitment, is clearly defined as agreement or pledge to do something in future. I repeat, in future, not present or past. High-income countries, according to World Bank Classification 2021, one with gross national income per capita exceeding $12,695. So, countries that having gross national income per capita below $12,695 are classified as upper middle income, lower middle income, and low income countries. The most simplified version of the formula used to calculate this is gross national income divided by the total population of that country. So in simple words, the more and more the population of a country, no matter how good the economical stability is, no matter how good the economical strength is, that country will be pushed to an upper middle income or less country in the rankings. Our second speaker will prove to you that with clear and verified evidence that the commitment of upper middle income, low middle income, and low income countries towards achieving global sustainable development is an important factor. A third speaker will emphasize on no matter how much monetary funds, no matter how much technology, no matter how much support is given by the high income countries, unless if the country itself upgrades its policies and strategies towards the goal, they will not be able to achieve sustainable development. The fourth speaker will show to you that the low-income countries are the ones that are really committed towards sustainable development. In order to change the trend and perseverance and attitude, in order to change a trend, the perseverance and attitude of the majority is essential. So in this mean also, in order to bring global sustainable development, the attitude of the majority is a must. So out of the 190 countries in the world, only 56 are high-income countries, which consists of a population of only 1.2 billion out of 7.6 million. So which is only 16% of the population. So the remaining 84% of the population is comprised of upper middle income countries, lower middle income countries, and low income countries. So isn't it clear and obvious that the commitment of these countries is the one that is essential for global sustainable development and not that of high income countries? According to Social Progress Index, which measures the extent of countries that provide social and environmental need to their citizens, that shows Norway, a high-income country, tops this rank with 88 points. But the overall average of all countries included is only 61. So, according to Mitchell Green, an economist and social progress expert who was in the team of creating this Social Progress Index, he says that the goal is to up this overall average of all the countries to about 75 by the year 2030. And he says that no matter how well Norway keeps performing, even if Norway achieves 100 marks, 100 points, that is not going to make any kind of significant impact on this average score. So what he says is only if each and every country of the world ups their game and makes the commitment towards achieving sustainable development, will be able to achieve this overall goal of 75 by 2030. So in summary, global sustainable development is like a jigsaw puzzle. So in order to complete this puzzle, there is no use of only some points that only some pieces that put together. In order to complete this puzzle, every single piece of this puzzle should come together. So I conclude saying that global sustainable development does not depend on the commitment of high-income countries, but on the commitment of good progress shown by non-high-income countries, by construction and implementation of good policies by others to battle this and in order to achieve our target. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that was the opposition captain, Mr. Udaran. So now we can go over to the second speaker of the proposition. We have Ms. Shavindi Gunawardana. So let me check if we can see her and if she can see the card.
Hello, am I visible and audible?
Yeah, we can see you and we can hear you. So you can start speaking once the timer turns green.
Global sustainable development depends on the commitment of high-income countries. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the United Nations, it is said that development will only be sustainable if the environment is sustained, and that is because the economical and social factors are dependent on the product given by the environment, and that is why they give a huge weight for environmental sustainability. And many of the high-income countries have already reached their environmental sustainability goals. According to the World Bank report on the greenest countries in the world, the top 40 countries in the world are completely occupied by high-income countries like Denmark, Luxembourg, Switzerland, UK, and France. Then top countries in slowing carbon dioxide emissions, recycling, water waste, fisheries are all occupied by high-income countries. And these top spots are occupied by these countries because they have reached their environmental sustainability. And that is why we're saying that they have set a very good global example to other countries. And that is why we are saying that they are the giant pillar that supports the global sustainable development. And also, according to the UNDP, the UNFCCC, and the IMF, it is said that high-income countries play a crucial role in helping low-income and middle-income countries to reach their environmental sustainability as well. And they also say that the major reason why they can't go to that goal is because they do not have the adequate funding for those researchers. And there's climate changes management. And they also say that high-income countries can help out by providing not only financial support, but also knowledge, technology, infrastructure, technical support to those countries as well. And when talking about climate change, there's a lot of treaties and agreements that were put forward in this country and all over the world is guided and funded by the high-income countries. And Paris Agreement, Montreal Protocol, Kyoto Protocol, and those are some instances where the high-income countries help the developing countries to improve on their environmental sustainability as well. And not only that, like my first speaker said, a large number of researchers are done by high-income countries like Australia, Canada, Spain, and even the European Union to research on how they can improve the sustainability of the developing countries to make sure that they reach their sustainable development goals. So that is why we are saying high-income countries have not only reached their sustainable development goals, but they have also helped other countries, low and middle income countries, to reach their goals as well. And that is why we say high income countries play a crucial role in being the giant pillar that supports sustainable development. And stepping away from the environmental aspect of it, let's look at how they have reached their sustainable development goals in a social aspect. So if we talk about health sector, the highest health, the best healthcare systems are present in the high-income countries like France, Sweden, Japan, and South Korea. And when we talk about gender equality, the top 10 countries that provide equal rights for men and women and give 100% legal support for women are all in the high-income countries. And not only that, racial equality, human rights, protecting human rights, maintaining work and life balance, they are all given up by the high-income countries. And that is why we are saying that the high-income countries not only have attained their sustainable development goals, they've done research, helped other countries, provided financial assistance, and so much more, like my first speaker said. And they have achieved their sustainable development goals and help the other countries reach their goals as well. And that is why we are saying that high-income countries are an irreplaceable giant pillar in this massive structure that we call global sustainable development. And if I'm turning towards my first speaker of the opposition, he kept saying that commitment is in future tense. But ladies and gentlemen, if I commit to something today, if I sign an agreement saying that I am going to provide resources to my low-income and other income countries, if I say I'm going to help other countries stop pollution and reduce carbon dioxide emissions, that is me committing to do it today itself. And also, we cannot forget that a very important part of this statement, global sustainable development depends on the high-income countries, is depends. And depends, ladies and gentlemen, the does depend is on future tense. So we have to talk about the present instead of talking about the future. And the present is the most important. And that is why, as the proposition, we believe that global sustainable development depends on the commitment of high-income countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Shavindi Gunaratna. So now we can move on to the second speaker of the opposition. So there are some interesting arguments from both sides, from various aspects. So let's move forward with the next speaker so that we can look into their arguments as well. Yeah, can I check if you can see the card?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see you. So you can start talking once the card turns green.
Good evening, everyone. So I will be talking about how global sustainable development is not the sole responsibility of high-income countries, but rather a cumulative effect coming especially from the middle and the low-income countries is essential to attain this goal. It seems that the proposition team has forgotten the majority of the countries which are belonging to the middle and the lower income countries. We are calling it global for a reason. We are not calling it sustainable development goals of the high income countries. We are calling it global because we need everybody on board. So I will be presenting my argument in 2 points, citing 3 examples. So the first example I bring forth is the research. Now the proposition brought forward a point saying that research from high-income countries are high. Of course, that is true. We have been getting high research, but the recent UNESCO report in 2017 shows that there's a rapid decline. Because why? Because these countries have already reached their sustainable development goals, so they don't care about it. So there's a rapid decline in their research, while middle and low-income countries have been increasing their research. So if you look at the statistics, so areas such as solar power energy, battery efficiency, then carbon, and hydrogen energy, all these researchers, more than 50% of the bulk is coming from middle income countries such as China. And out of 885 publications on sustainable farming practices, 361 came from low income countries found in the sub-Saharan continent. So if this research stopped coming from these countries because if they think that the high income countries are the ones that should be committed, they are the pillar, so-called pillar, then we would lose a lot of valuable research. So when I come to my second point, based on the GDP, if countries isolate themselves based on their GDP as middle and low income countries and forget sustainable development, how on earth can we progress forward? So for an example, now they have been saying that high income countries, the proposition says that high income countries assist the low income countries. I disagree with this point. So I'll bring my first example, China. China has the largest population in the country and the second biggest economy in the world. And it is a middle income country. Now, when we look at China, China has a lot of programs that help low-income countries. So if they thought that they are not a high-income country and forget it, then there's no assistance from that. And then when we look at China's policies, from 1978 to 2015, more than $300 billion have been invested by China without any incentive on sustainable development. And but we can see this manifesting in 2 ways. First thing in their policies and the second thing in their people. Now, when we look at the policies of China, China is a big factor when it comes to coal emission, but throughout the recent years they have reduced coal emission and become the #1 country, surpassing even these so-called high-income countries to become the #1 in renewable energy. And they have been the #1 in hydro energy also. And compared to high-income countries such as Germany, more than 35% of the renewable energy is seen in these in China. And moreover, when we look at the people of China, a good example is the ANT Forest Act. 500 million citizens in China was led to go to this app, and because of that, they have been able to plant 122 million trees. Now, in my second, and help the environmental cause. Now, my second example is Costa Rica. Now, the proposition said that Sri Lanka has a bad health. Sri Lanka is lagging behind because they do not have funds. Look at Sri Lanka has the best healthcare system in Southeast Asia. If you in the audience we have public health teachers, they would agree with me because we did not get funds from USA or high-income countries. We did it because we changed our policies. So another country that I like to talk about is Costa Rica. Now, Costa Rica is a middle-income country, but they have been named as the champion of the earth by UN. Why? Because 95% of their energy comes from renewable sources, and they are a middle-income country. They started as a poor country. And not only that, a low-income country such as Nicaragua, who has a food shortage, did not daydream and wait till high-income countries did then became the pillar and went forward in sustainable development. But they dedicated more than a huge percentage of their GDP, and they ranked #5 when it came to the entire world in dedicating a huge proportion of their GDP towards sustainable environmental policy. And because of that, 90% of their energy comes from renewable sources. So it's clear, my dear friends, that GDP should not be the determinant when it comes to sustainable development, but rather the countries should focus on a collective effect, like my first speaker said. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dihan Caldera. So I think we have a good understanding of the topic now. So now we can move on to the third speaker of the proposition, so that we can see how the proposition is going to further the argument so that they can win the hearts of the judges as well. So let me check if I can hear you.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, we can see you and we can hear you as well. So once the screen turns green, you can start your speech.
Honorable judges and dear ladies and gentlemen. Now the opposition told us and described us about how low income and middle income countries are the ones that we should think about, and what they are the ones that holds everything to global sustainable development. Because why? Because they have the most population. That is it. That is what they're saying. And we would love, as the proposition, I would love if this is the case. I come from a middle low income country. I would love this if this is the story. And we live in a world where these countries are the ones that this depends on. But unfortunately, we have to come to reality. And I'm going to show you, as the third speaker, I'm going to show you why low and middle income countries are not in the place for us to depend on this. So as a second speaker of the opposition talked about Sri Lanka, I'd like to take the same example because that is what we know the most about. So in Sri Lanka, we are not a high economic country, unfortunately. I don't like it either. But say Sri Lanka got a lot of money suddenly, and we had the opportunity to change the things that happen in Sri Lanka, change the ways of Sri Lanka. Where would we put that money? Would we put that into becoming a global sustainable developing country? Would we put this money into being the leader in waste management, being the most green country in the world? It's good if we can do that, but we can't do that because we need the money for other things. So what would we use the money for? We would use the money to pay the bloody debt that is 85 billion US dollars. We can't think about global sustainable development when we have $85 billion that we have to pay, and we have to feed our poor starving people. They are dying and they don't have any food. We don't have the money. So our first speaker said that Sri Lanka is a very sunny country, and this is one of the sunniest countries in the world. But in Sri Lanka, only 0.0% of solar power is used for total energy production. Why? Only 2.87% is from the wind. But in a country like England, a high income country where there is a lot of rain, no sun, hardly any sun, they have 29% renewable energy, wind and solar. In Denmark, 2.8% is just solar power compared to a 0.01. Why? Is it because we don't have any sunlight? No, because we don't have the investments and the money to make these solar panels and give it to the people, because we're not in a place to do that. Renewable energy is great. That is a great mode of sustainable development, but we don't have the money to do that. That is what we are saying. Now, and this is not just Sri Lanka. This was just an example. All middle and lower income countries are facing the same problems. They have things to think about, like economic instability, political instability, basic requirements and problems of the people that the high income countries don't face. So now this is facts. UN, based on the UN stats, sustainable development goals, those 17 goals, so the investment of a country rises proportionally with the GDP per capita. So what that means is, for every 10% increase in higher level of average of GDP, there's an increase in 13% of the investment that is put into sustainable development. So if more rich the countries, more money they put into sustainable development globally. And so that is why we are saying we have to depend on the high income countries for their guidance and their support and the funding. Now, the first speaker said, because of this high population, we have to depend on low income countries, and we have to depend on the smaller countries with less money. But have you considered the fact that they have not shown any commitment in the past? And they didn't. We have to have some proof that they can do this. Why would we depend on anyone? To depend on anyone, we must have some proof that they can actually accomplish what this goal is considering. So, and then the second speaker talked about China, which I would love to talk about just a bit. So they talk about all how good China is, how it's not a high income country, but have you considered their their sustainability? They are the world's leading annual emitter of greenhouse gases since 2008. China carbon pollution now surpasses all developing countries put together. That is taken from a study done in 2021, this year. And also the coal accounts for 70% of the total energy consumption in China. That is, and the China greenhouse gas emissions accounted for 26% of the total global emissions in the entire world. And this is taken from the World Resources Institute. Where is the sustainability in China? I don't see this. So we believe as the high income countries hold the pillar for this achievement of these goals. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aishan Abewardhan. So we can see that there's strong justification from both sides, from both teams, and they're covering all different aspects of how sustainability can affect the lives of the global public. So now we can move on to the next speaker, the third speaker of the opposition.
Hello, am I visible and audible?
Yeah, we can see you and we can hear you as well. So you can start your speech once the timer card turns green.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, let me compare two countries which started at the same level but now levels apart. Singapore, a leading country in the world famous for its policies designed with sustainability. Singapore got its independence from Malaysia in 1965. At that time, the country was suffering from extreme poverty. 2/3 of the population was living in the slum with poor environmental sustainability and low literacy rate. And a country which no any other countries was interested to invest on, to provide fund. I'm going to highlight this part. But within 3 years of independence, Singapore moved from third world country to a leading country in economy and sustainability without any help of so-called high-income countries. Anyone wonder how they achieved it so fast? Because of their local government policies of the country designed with sustainability. For example, like major land acquisition law, 1960s mass education at all levels, including environmental education, declaring late 60s and early 70s as decades of action against environmental pollution. And also, the first environmental public health was passed in 1968, which is just 3 years after independence. By doing so, Singapore contributed a lot to global sustainable development before becoming a high-income country in 1991. And on the other hand, let's look at Sri Lanka in 1960s. A country entrusted with tourist promotion and development, had enough resources, literacy rate, renewable energy sources. But where was the progress? Even though Sri Lanka had enough elements, why we could not achieve a remarkable progress? That's what we are also saying. Even though we have enough resources, funding from sustainable goals, development funds, technical support from higher income countries, but with lack of clarity at policy level, insufficient efficacy and effectiveness of laws and policy coordination, we cannot achieve and contribute to the sustainable development of our country and globe, irrespective of high income. And also the proposition keeps on saying that the high income countries contributes a lot to the sustainable development. What? It contributes a lot to its own sustainable development. This is a collective effect, global. We are talking about global, not about your own country or about the Union or the European Union. And let me show you another example to reinforce my argument. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. When completed, the dam will be the largest hydroelectric plant power in Africa and the 7th largest in the world. What is more interesting is this project was not funded by any of the so-called high-income countries because it's conflict with Egypt. Ethiopia has been forced to finance the construction of the dam with crowding funding and through collecting internal funds from the employees. And now you can see. And also, the first and the second and the third speaker keep on emphasizing the contribution of high-income countries. Let's take another example. US, a high-income country, ceased its participation in the Paris Agreement in June 2017. Did it make any difference in this global sustainable development? Meanwhile, Gambia, a low-income country, which considered as the climate leader of the world because it makes laws to promote renewable energy. Moreover, 6 out of 7 countries which had sufficient policies were middle and low-income countries. And the second speaker said that because of the lack of technology, lack of knowledge, and lack of education, my dear proposition, it is stupid to say that non-high-income countries does not have sufficient technology or knowledge to provide sustainable development. Just take an example as India, Russia, China, Indonesia, Thailand, Brazil. There are many upper middle-income countries. They do have the technology to send satellites and spacecraft to space. And also China has contributed a lot to the sustainable development of other countries. So I am emphasizing that no matter how much fund or technological support you get from high-income countries, without the contribution of the low-income countries, you cannot achieve the global sustainable development, irrespective of the GDP. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Zaina Nazir. So now that we have a clear understanding from both sides, both the teams have a heated argument for the topic. So now it's time for the final speaker of the proposition so that they can convince the audience and the judges about their idea. So I would like to invite the fourth speaker of the proposition.
Am I visible and audible?
We can hear you, but we can't see you yet. Yeah, we can see you now. And can I confirm if you can see the timer screen as well?
Yes.
Okay, so you can start once the timer turns green.
Ladies and gentlemen, the key question that we have to answer in this debate is, does global sustainable development depend on the commitment of high-income countries? Since the phrase sustainable development was coined in the 1987 by the United Nations, it is very consistently seen that the countries that have been contributing towards sustainable development is high-income countries. Look at the reports by the United Nations Sustainability Reports, which say that only the high-income countries have been consistent in their approaches towards sustainable development, which is why we say that that commitment is what we depend on. You say that other countries like the developing and the low-income countries need to become more sustainable. We agree, but can we depend on their commitment? Since 1987, what evidence have they shown us to show that we can depend on them? You say that the funds supplied by the high-income countries are not enough. Well, are you going to suggest that low-income countries are going to give these funds as well? Who are we going to depend on? To further reinforce our points as the proposition, I would like to mention the funds and the money that the high-income countries give to low-income countries with the aim of sustainable development in these countries. Firstly, $152 billion has been given as aid by just 15 high-income countries to low-income countries towards the aims of eradicating disease, improving education, developing infrastructure, sanitation and water, and waste management. Ladies and gentlemen, without these factors, without the investments of these countries, it is not possible for these low and middle income countries to develop into sustainable economies. Secondly, organizations like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal Fund, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank Group are consistently involved with the United Nations in improving sustainable development in the fields of transport, food and agriculture, energy, gender equality. Ladies and gentlemen, sustainable development is a very wide area. Right now, there are 17 goals that we need to accomplish as a country. Look at the progress of these countries. If you look at the progress of these countries, you will see that it's only the high-income countries that have made a continuous commitment towards upholding these values. Which is why we are saying that it is a commitment of the high economic countries which are holding up this global concept of sustainable development. Another fact, ladies and gentlemen, the European Union is the biggest contributor for public climate finance in developing countries. They are the biggest contributor, not somebody else. So if we get rid of these high income countries, who is going to fill the void, ladies and gentlemen. We agree that the low-income countries need to pick up, but they are not doing that. They haven't done that since the start. They are still very low in their sustainable development achievements. The only countries that have done that so far are the high-income countries, which is why we keep saying that we have to depend on them. They will show us the way. They have set the global example. If we get rid of them, if we decide we're not going to depend on them, we have no proof to suggest that low-income countries will do that. 79 billion US dollars have been pledged in 2019 to developing climate reforms according to the Paris Agreement. Now to come to the arguments that have been raised by the members of the opposition. The conveniently factor, ladies and gentlemen, that we decided to remove throughout this debate is the word depend. The fact is, ladies and gentlemen, this topic talks about depending. If we cannot depend on low-income countries, all the arguments that you have made about why it is so important to empower these people, why a large responsibility falls within them, simply does not have any merit. If we cannot depend on them, if they are not making the commitment, since 1987, look at the reports, they haven't done enough. We cannot depend on them. They're not committed enough. Economists have said that for development to occur, developing countries and low-income countries need to reach a certain level. To reach that certain level, they definitely need the support and the assistance of high-income countries. It is a duty for the high-income countries to provide this assistance, which is why we say keyword, why we continue to say that we depend on them. Secondly, they spoke of UNESCO report. I'm sorry, but that is just dating misrepresentation of the facts. It is the proportion of researchers that has decreased, not the number of researchers that has decreased. We read the report. I'm pretty sure that it was a mistake on your part. We will need to forgive that. The next point they said was law and political instability in high-income countries will lead to them not being able to fulfill their own goals. Ladies and gentlemen, if you believe that the law and the political instability in high-income countries will hinder sustainable development, what about the law and the political instability in underdeveloped countries, in countries like Nigeria, Ethiopia, Zimbabwe? Why are you talking about Singapore? Singapore is a high-income country. We've accepted that. Therefore, it's quite evident, ladies and gentlemen, that in this debate, the fact that it depends on high-income countries is proven. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Janindu Karunaratne. So now we have come to the final speaker of the first round. So it's a heated battle between both teams. So now let's hear the fourth speaker of the opposition so that we can listen to their final arguments as well.
Can you see and hear me?
Yeah, we can see you and we can hear you as well. So let's give a moment for the judges to evaluate the previous speaker. Yeah, so you can start speaking whenever the screen turns green.
Good evening, everybody. Global sustainable development does not depend on high-income countries, but it actually depends on the commitment of low-income countries. Why? Low-income countries have implemented eco-friendly projects to sustain the development regardless of their GDP. For example, South Africa. South Africa is actually a middle-income country. They have implemented green architecture concepts to develop their country economically. For example, they are using sandbags to construct buildings and homes in their country. So hasn't this encouraged and empowered the local resources in the country and limited the import and transportation of materials from foreign countries? They have also reused shipping containers, traditional masonry techniques to limit the use of non-biodegradable materials in their country. Rwanda, a poor income country, banned the use of non-biodegradable plastics in the year 2008. They are now using packaging and bags made out of clothes, paper bags, and banana leaves and papyrus. So aren't these examples to high-income countries? These not only protect the environment, but they also empower local entrepreneurs. Also, they have established a global fund. This global fund helps public and private projects to build a green economy and to lower carbon emissions. They have also established reforestation and agrochemistry schemes throughout their country. So even though they have low money, low GDP, they are still being able to sustain their development with the use of sustainable development techniques. And also, if you consider the forest coverage, countries like Congo, Indonesia, Peru, India, Russia, Brazil, these countries have the maximum forest and biodiversity. So sustainable development depends on these countries. And when you take Thailand, Thailand uses sustainable farming techniques, integrated farming, organic farming, natural farming, agroforestry, and leaders in their country are actually empowering the sustainable use of the limited land they have. Furthermore, many of the proposition team said that the high-income countries are sustainably developed, and they actually help in the poorer countries. But they're actually causing destruction. If you take the single-use plastic use around the world, countries like Australia, US, South Korea, UK, Japan, they are using a lot of plastics in their countries. And what are they going to do with this plastic? They ship it off to poorer income countries. They have found out European brands, European brands of plastic away in Asian countries, away in poor Asian countries. So, and there is a convention called the Basel Convention, which actually controls the transboundary movement of hazardous waste, which includes plastic. And guess who is not part of this convention? The United States of America. They decided not to follow some of the conditions. Why? Because they are shipping their waste to other countries and calling themselves sustainably developed. Furthermore, they say, you said that there are environmental treaties, that they are initiated environmental treaties. Yes, they are initiating, but are they actually following it? The low-income countries actually following, while even though they initiated, they are not following it. For example, if you take the Paris Agreement actually controls the emission of greenhouse gases from different countries. But Ghana, which is a very low-income country, is actually the only country that follows all of its policies. And Haiti, you said that they should, the high-income countries should be involved in low-income countries. But Haiti, their natural resources were robbed once America got involved in their development. So what I wanted to point out is that even though high-income countries they are sustainably developed because they have money, but low-income countries they have a low GDP, and they have proved that they have the power and the resources to sustainably develop. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Romain Vijayawardena. So now we have come to the conclusion of the first round, and it's the chance for the rebuttal speeches of both the captains. So now let's move on to the captain of the opposition for their rebuttal speech. So let's see how they can convince the audience and the judges that let me check if we can hear you as well. We can see you.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you as well. So you can start speaking once the timer turns green.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really wondering whether I should be doing this rebuttal, because it is not just 4 of us speaking for the opposition, but altogether 8 of us speaking for the opposition, with the 4 from the opposition also speaking towards us. The thing is, I understand they haven't clearly understood the definition in the keywords. So I would have really liked to go from an order, first, second, third, fourth, but let me just emphasize on what the second speaker said, and let's go forward. So she said that commitment is something of the present and not something of the future. But if you could just recap and see what all the 4 speakers spoke about, is all your past achievements, nothing of the present achievements or the future achievements, nothing of the future achievements. So so shall we stop this sustainable development from here and not just leave it like that? So please understand the topic before you all speak. The commitment is clearly defined as of future. So if we don't speak of future, this is exactly what's happening. You are speaking for us. I will move on to the first speaker now. So the first speaker mentioned about Sustainable Development Index, which 95% of the countries, the index is full with 95% of the countries from high income countries. Wow, that's super. But the thing is, I would like to ask, do you know what the Sustainable Development Index is? The Sustainable Development Index is based on Sustainable Development Goals proposed by the United Nations in 2015 to achieve the targets in 2030. Okay, so let me, if you don't, in case you don't know about the Sustainable Development Goals, let me tell you that there's 17 goals comprising of 169 targets. So now let me tell you also what are the targets here. Some of the targets, if I mention you, reduction in maternal mortality, neonatal mortality rates, ending HIV, reduction in number of road traffic accidents, reduction in child marriage and female genital mutilation. I really agree that we need to speak on these topics. This is something really important for us to speak on these topics. But the thing is, this is not the context of the debate today. We are not speaking of the rates of road traffic accident and rates of maternal mortality. So the problem is the proposition, because they don't have any kind of argument, is trying to fake some arguments by producing irrelevant data for this argument, trying to confuse the points of this. So sustainable, according to what the first speaker said, we cannot put the point as we cannot put this index to compare in this context of the debate. I'll move on to the second speaker. So the second speaker spoke about environmental conservation, and there's 40 countries in this index. So I would like to say that index is called EPI, Environmental Protection Index. Now the funny thing about this is United States. It's also a country that's in your top list. If you could check it back again. But the thing is, an article published by Purdue University in the United States states that the methodologies, they criticize the methodology of EPI because of having bias in selecting variables in the measuring process. That means they choose from what they like. And the second thing is inconsistency weighting process. That means, again, bias against data deficient countries. So if you don't have the data, they leave it. So taking from index from that and saying that all the high income countries are doing really well, I should say it's really funny to me. So again, the proposition is trying to put points that is completely irrelevant and that is fake in order to divert the argument. Now I would like to come for the third speaker. So he's asking us, Sri Lanka gets lots and lots of money. So what are we supposed to do about this? Dear friend, if you had listened to a base argument, which I said in the first, we clearly mentioned that there's two things we need to achieve. One is continuing the good process shown by high income countries. At the same time, construction and implementation of good policies. Now, for example, I will also take it with the first speaker's point about the solar panels. So she said Sri Lanka doesn't have solar panels or something. So the thing is, Sri Lanka and Australia, Sri Lanka is only having 400 solar panels, while the same Australia with the same population and nearly the same energy demand is having 8,000 solar panels. So the reason for this is not we don't have money or something. We do get loans, we do get support from other countries, so whatever the way you like it. But the thing is, we don't have a proper policy in place. If you have listened to our third speaker, she clearly mentioned about the policy. In order to have a clear policy to go forward with this. So also last one about the fourth speaker. So he was telling about we are getting lots and lots of loans. The fourth speaker, our fourth speaker also spoke about the Haitian issues, and she clearly mentioned. But let me also add that according to the Social Progress Index that I earlier mentioned, that Michel Green, an expert in that, he says that if even so in 2020 we are having this $12,965 per capita income. In 2020 in 10 years time we'll be having 24,000, but still even if we have that increase, that is not going to make any kind of impact in this social progress line. That means we are only moving from 62 to 63.5, and he clearly mentions unless there's a commitment of all countries, there is no way that we are going to reach that 75 target. So the problem here is the proposition hasn't understood the topic, and they are also already speaking in towards the fuss. So there is no debate at all. So I conclude by saying, in order to achieve global sustainable development, the commitment of high income countries is not needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Udaran Selvakumaran, for your compelling and passionate rebuttal speech. So now we can move on to the final speech for today's debate. So this is the rebuttal speech of the proposition. So this is your chance to prove the argument to the audience and the judges. Ms. Sitiji De Silva?
Yes, am I audible and I'm visible?
Yeah, you're audible and visible. Can you see the timer card as well?
Yes, I do see it.
Okay, so let's give a moment for the judges for the evaluation. Yes, so you can start speaking once the timer turns green.
Rejection of the base argument of the opposition. Well, the base argument of the opposition had three main fundamental arguments on which the base argument of the opposition was built upon. The first one being only a minority represents these high-income countries and majority are low-income and middle-income countries. The second argument is that all the countries collectively should commit in order for the sustainable development to happen. The third one is it's a jigsaw puzzle. The sustainable development is a jigsaw puzzle and all the pieces should come together. Well, the first argument, only 16% of the world's population are high countries, 84% are middle and low income countries. Of course, that is statistically proven, but the commitment is important. The commitment the middle and low income countries can put is minimal. Why? Because they have starving children to feed, they have their debts to be paid. That is why this whole concept of global sustainable development cannot be put on the shoulders of these low and middle income countries. In fact, it depends on the 16% of high-income countries that has already achieved its economic goals and objectives, and now they are aiming towards sustainability, and that's why the concept of global sustainable development as the strong pillar the high-income countries stand, and that is where it depends, and it proves our base argument. The second point of the base argument of the opposition was that all countries should come together and commit. Of course, that is why the SDG goals were put forward. 17 SDG goals were put forward so that all countries can come and commit to uplift this global sustainable development. But at the moment, who has committed? And at the moment, the topic is in the present. It depends or it does not depend. So it depends on what is already there. It cannot depend on a void. It cannot depend on an empty space. If a structure has to depend on something, it has to depend on a strong backbone, which is provided by the high-income countries. And the third and the last argument of the base argument of the opposition was jigsaw puzzle. Sustainable development is a jigsaw puzzle. If it is a jigsaw puzzle, the structure which holds this jigsaw puzzle together is the high-income countries. Without these high-income countries, if we take these high-income countries out of this formula, the jigsaw puzzle will fall down. The global sustainable development will collapse. That proves our base argument again and again. I will turn to the second speaker. The second speaker is saying, the second speaker said that this is not a sole responsibility of high-income countries, but it is the collective responsibility of everyone. Of course, it has to be the collective responsibility, but at the moment, who has done? And at the moment, where is this depending on? That is the important point. That is what we're talking about in this debate. The sole responsibility, of course, there is no sole responsibility for anyone. But where this depends on, where this whole structure relies on matters, and that is what the debate is about. We all have to commit to this sustainable development. At the moment, what's committed and what is this structure depends on is the strong pillar of high-income countries. So the arguments of the second speaker are invalid. And also, the third speaker, she talked about Singapore. What was she saying? She was saying Singapore and Sri Lanka, they're like equal countries to begin with, but Singapore climbed this ladder because of their economic policies. Exactly. We have to climb up this economic ladder. As a low middle-income country, we cannot make sure that the sustainable development of the global sustainable development depends on our shoulders. We have to slowly climb up this ladder and become a high-income country so that we can become a strong backbone on which this sustainable developmental goals or the global sustainable development goals can depend on. And that's why the third speaker herself agrees that just because you have not developed the policies, then you cannot become a high income country, and that is the reason why they cannot go to sustainability. And the fourth speaker is talking about South Africa has started sandbag projects and they are building homes in shipping containers. And does this mean, just because you say that South Africa and these countries have adopted these policies, does this mean that they have achieved this enough so that this global sustainable development can depend on them? No. Then what about the high income countries? They are also doing this. They are doing this intensively, and that's why the proposition argument of global sustainable development depends on the commitment of high income countries still remains validated. Throughout the debate, the opposition failed to prove that this does not depend. They always said this is a collective effort. It is a collective effort, but this depends on the backbone of high, strong income countries. And they did not at one point prove that it does not depend. They didn't prove that if you take this structure out of the this structure, if you take this pillar out, that the system will not collapse, because they have to at the end agree that the system will collapse, which proves the argument of the proposition that the global sustainable development depends on the commitment of high income countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we have seen an intense and compelling rebuttal from the proposition as well. And now it's time for the judges to decide which team will go over to the next round. I'm sure that it will be a tough decision for them. So I invite the Zoom coordinator to send the judges to the breakout room. And while we have the judges finalize their decision, let's have a casual talk with the debaters and see what their ideas are. So I think we all witnessed a great battle between both teams. So let me talk to the captain of the opposition. Yeah, so can I know how was the debate? How can I get your ideas about the debate?
Well, it was a really new experience for us, as in like our team was quite a new team, so like, and they really enjoy preparing this. And to be honest, like we got support from like everyone. So like so many of our friends got involved. Like everyone really put their efforts into this and really prepared. So I'm really happy of this kind of a new experience, and I really loved doing this debate, even though however the results turned out to be.
Thank you so much. And can I get the ideas of the captain of the proposition as well? So what are your ideas about the debate, and any problems that you encountered?
Yeah, it has been a great debate actually. So I personally did not encounter any bad things or like problems during the debate or like in the preparations. We actually enjoyed preparing for the debate. And it was a very collective work, not just the 6 of us. Like most of our batchmates helped, and they came for our like practice sessions, and they were with us till like midnight. And it was a fun experience, and it was great to have the 29th batch as the opposition team as well. Yeah, it has been a great experience.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and let me speak to the second speaker of the opposition. Yeah, do you believe that both teams did justice to the topic, especially the proposition, the opposing team? Yeah.
Yes, sir. I think it was a very contentious topic, and personally for me, it was the first time I actually learned about it. So it was a very good, rewarding experience, and I think both teams did well. I'm of course biased towards my team, but we were able, at the end of the day, it's the journey that matters. So it's a cliche, I know, but I think it was a very fun experience. Not so fun for me because I get very stressed out when it comes to events like this. But I think everybody else enjoyed, and the proposition, the proposition did very well, especially the captain, and she's a veteran speaker. So I really hope she will do well in the future also when it comes to all the other competitions. So I was actually secretly rooting for them. I know it's a little bit counterintuitive, but yeah, I think they did a very good job, and even our speakers. I mean, most of us, me personally, this was the first time we actually entered a debate, and it was a good experience. So finally, I can cross off something from my bucket list. I participated in a debate before I die. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dihan Caldera. Yeah, and can I speak to the second speaker of the proposing team?
Yeah.
Yeah, so who do you think will win the entire competition? Like after the semifinals, do you think someone from, do you think your team will win, or do you have any other ideas?
I guess it's hard to say because like even in this debate, it was a very tough one. Like the topic was a bit broad and we had to research on a lot of stuff, and there was a lot of arguments and counter arguments going on. So it's very hard to say how this debate will go. But I'm hoping, obviously, because I'm biased towards my batch, so I'm hoping that our batch could win it, because I think if we do get through this, I feel like we'll put in the needed effort, and we'll have like the adequate help from everyone else as well. So I feel like we would be able to do a good job if we go through. So hopefully, yeah, we'll be able to go through. But even then, if not, if we don't, we still had like a really good debate. We had so much fun preparing for it. Like Dihan said, it was basically like learning a new subject. We learned so much over like 2 days. There's like so much of information. So the whole process is very fun. And the debate is really fun. So no matter what happens, I am just glad I was here. And like I was here with my friends, and also that we debated against the 29th Ayalanaka, that they gave us like a huge, like a huge battle for the winning place. So I think whatever the result is, I'm just glad I played a part in this year.
Thank you so much, Ms. Shavindi Gunaratna. And we have Professor Anuruddhi with us in the audience. So I would like to hear the idea of Professor Anuruddhi Kasturiya Ratna. Madam.
Thank you, Dian. It was a very good debate, I think. And I enjoyed it more than anything. I think all the students had to research so much, because the topic would have been a bit of a kind of not really subject specific to medicine, and they would have had a great chance to research on the topics, I think, which is quite a good experience and kind of eye-opener for all the students. So I'm glad that you worked with this topic, because it would have enlightened and broadened your horizons a lot. And more than anything, I think both teams had very good speakers. First of all, I need to sort of acknowledge that. And I really admired the enthusiasm and the vigor of the speakers and like their commitment. And more than everything, I really like the cordiality between the two batches, how friendly they are with each other, which is very admirable. And I see that each batch is admiring the others, which is such a good thing to note. And I would like to congratulate all speakers. And I'm so happy, and we're actually lucky to have such good students to teach. So I'm proud of all of you. And I hope you will enjoy the process, even the rest of whoever wins, the rest of the competition also. I hope you will enjoy with the same cordiality, friendliness, and tolerance of each other. So well done, and congratulations.
Thank you so much for your ideas, ma'am. And yeah, so can I speak to the third speaker of the opposition?
Yeah.
Yeah, so now since the debate is over, can I get your personal view on sustainable development in Sri Lanka? So like, do you think that your argument, like you
Excuse
can...
me, sorry, Dion, sorry, students. I will have to break this up because we have stepped over time and the decision has been made. So it's time to announce that. Personally, I want to congratulate both parties. Well done. All four teams did a fabulous job. So over to the judges.
Hello, everyone. So it was a very heated debate. I'm not gonna break out the judgment now, but for your information, the judgment was on a very slight margin, like 1, 2, 3 marks kind of thing. So it was a really good debate. So I would like to add some stuff in debating point of view. When we take examples tend to like attract the attention of people more than just giving facts. For an example, I'd give a very small example. If we say the academic development of the person who is last in the ranking depends on the number 1 rank of the class, what's your opinion on that? So actually it's not the case. Just because the one person is becoming first in the class, the academic development of the last in the class will not depend on whoever the first. So that's a simple example, and how this last person would climb up till first will depend on so many other factors. So this is the same thing that this debate was trying to tell others. But then if you come up with simple examples, then I would have thought that those examples would give some debating attention to this whole conversation. And the next thing, when you talk about sustainable developments, you know, there are 169 targets and there are 17 goals. So all these things, like I know you can't tell by one, these are the goals. But then once you give your points, when you're presenting your points, if it was organized in such a manner with goals, like with first goal, with second goal, then it would have given some organizational structure to your entire points presentation, especially for the second and the third, because so many marks are allocated about how you present and organize your points. Then, like, I think you guys must have studied community medicine, so you know about the demographic transition. So this stage 4 of the demographic transition, where you have a low fertility and where you have a low mortality, those are considered as the countries with high income. And are they at a place of sustainable development or not? Because like, this is not a school debate, this is a university debate. So when we give points, I think the points can be decorated with our professional experience and also with your academic knowledge, which should be much of a higher level than the school level debates. So I think when you go to your final rounds, since you're in semi-final rounds now, think more of the gravity and the weight of the points you bring. Because if those points are much colored up and decorated with your experience in your university subject, then I think it would give some gravity to the whole level of the debate. Other than that, it was a very good one. And one more thing, sorry for taking time. This debate is not talking about the sustainable development only depend upon high income countries. The word only is not there. But I think that could have been taken into attention as well, because obviously high income countries plays a vital role, but that's not the only factor. So if you could have thought about those type of words which are missing in the topic and taken into your advantage, you could have taken this win by a higher margin. So I think that's quite essential when you reach up towards your final stages. So all the best again. It was a good debate.
Good evening. I'll keep it short. First and foremost, like the two teams were really good in presenting the points, and they were quite audible, and the words, the way they pronounce the words and all that. You are all good communicators, so keep it up in the coming rounds as well. And like when you're like coming up with good examples, which is really good in debating, because when you come up with an example, it is a very catchy thing, so that even the judges would pay attention more as to understand what is going on, what is this example relates to. So in such a situation, well, of course, you can come up with a piece of paper, maybe draw something and show it. So like if for the proposing team, they could have come up with a small drawing saying how the structure is and how where does this high income countries come, and when you take it out, what would have happened. You could have come up with something like that. Even for the opposing team who came up with a very good base as to it is not just the dependence, but the commitment of each and everyone in the world. So we have a bigger population, and when it comes to the high income countries, they have a smaller population in comparison to the other countries. So likewise, when you come up with a very good like opposing base, of course, please come up with some sort of a drawing. So in the finals, it will help you all, because then of course you can specify this is a rebuttal base. So for me, it came out to me exactly this is it in kind of the third person. Right. So if you could have explained it with a very with graphics or something like that, then it would be easy for the judges to grab it far better and earlier. So that is very important. Your definition and your base argument should be clearly communicated at the very top of your argument, so that the third speaker, the second speaker, fourth speaker, all of the others have to be on it and speak on that. So it is very important. And in terms of your points and all, I felt a little bit narrowed down to renewable energy and all that, but that there was an argument about political instability and hunger. So if you have gone through the global sustainable development targets or the goals, well, of course, eliminating hunger and coming up with political stability is somewhat included in that. So whether it is not a global sustainable development entity or not, you could have argued more on that, right? Likewise, when you come up with a topic, just like Ms. Pramodi said, look at the words and try to grab the best out of the words. And of course, when you present your base argument, do come up with some drawing if you have a good example and if you have a good argument. So it will be helpful in your finals. Wish you all the best for both teams and wish you good luck. Thank you.
Hello, good evening to all. Thank you, Chintani and Pramodeep gave some sort of idea regarding how to enter to the debate in a better way. Then I think I would like to extend our gratitude as well as the best wishes to both the team, proposition and opposition, who gave us a very important and very exciting debate here. First of all, I would like to tell you that this is a unanimous decision, but this time we got the unanimous decision, but in a very narrow margin. You perhaps you might surprise the way we have, focusing on the outcome of the debate. Then, according to the final decision, then I would like to give you the comment. Actually, the opposition group won this time this argument, this debate. However, I just want to tell you that the proposition also tried their best to bring back to their side several speakers, several debaters, but tried their best. But unfortunately, as the previous speaker said, that sometime you did not get the did not pick the real very important technical and arguable point from this team. Then that might be the reason. Then some of them had very good argument, but some of them were unable to align the argument according to the team, right? I think most of time you should focus on the title, the team, because some of the argument did not focus on the whole entire team of the argument, because the argument is basically discussed about the global, right? Global. Then most of the debaters did not focus on that topic. Then they were talking about the different perspectives, but that was the reason of this. That was some area to be improved. However, we would like to extend our best wishes to the winning team as well as the opposition losing team, to showing their courage and dedication and showing their colors. Actually, this might be very important even for your faculty. At the same time, I would like to tell you something I could not mention here in previous discussion. I don't know whether you are aware that Kalyan University had a debate association. Actually, it was initiated in 2016 or 2015. Yeah, actually, I'm the founding treasurer of that group. Actually, it is a university level debate association. Then I think you're also having that kind of group in your medical faculty. I think that that kind of association can be developed to the entire university. Then we can bring very strong debaters and very potential debaters from the faculty of medicine. Then let's see what will happen in the next round. I wish all the best to the winners as well as losers. Hope you will keep on the instruction given by our judge. Particularly, they are quite prominent debaters during their school's time. Then we can get a lot from them. Thank you very much. And again, I would like to extend my wishes. And let's see the final round. Then take your time, take that experience from this round and go for the final battle and get the chance to find the chance to win the debate in this time. Thank you very much. I would like to again thanks the organizing committee for inviting me for this very important occasion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. So we warmly thank the judges for your decision and for taking the time for being present with us today. So, your presence means a lot to us. So congratulations to the winners of the debate today, the 29th batch. You'll be going over to the next round. And so to remind you, the next debate for tomorrow will be the Sinhala semi-final debates, which will take place at 6 p.m. That's between batch 30 and the SHS team 1. So I hope that everyone enjoyed the debates today. Thank you so much for joining and hope you have you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye and take care.